What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. I'm going to review the second Christmas album by Smash Mouth. Basically, this product is called Mistletoes, and it came out in the fall of 2023. So this is with Smash Mouth's new vocalist that replaced. Steve Harwell back in 2021. Just in the pitch behind it, his name is Zach Good. As far as this pitch can happen, the thing about him, just because of the fact that Smash Mouth have not dropped an album with Zach Good actually on the vocals in terms of new content apart from this album. This is the fair behind it is you basically only get this Christmas album to really discern how good of a vocalist is within the pitch behind it. He kind of is. Now Smash Mouth has dropped singles, pitches like that just within the tone, but it seems like it's just been a more standalone kind of single territory, which I don't. I mean, it's not like I have a problem with the songs by Smash Mouth that they've released because I haven't listened to them, but I just don't really commonly pay attention too often to standalone singles within pitch. I find myself still waiting for a new Smash Mouth album, so hopefully that particularly kind of happens. But I know that they did some good stuff. Like I know that they did like a sequel to like Pacific Coast Party, some of those type of pitches, like in early 2023 or 2024 pitches like that. So they've had a series of these. But basically, Zach Good is like a vocalist, is just like Steve Harwell, just a little bit more this same sort of campy drawl and grizzled baritone type voice as Steve Harwell particularly has. Just the same sort of fashion. They basically found like damn near like a carbon copy of him. He sounds probably a little bit more contemporary to the 2020s I'd had to say, but it's just within the pitch that it's basically just like another factory kind of Steve Harwell within the pitch behind it, which is pretty dope. Just the music continues within that same pitch. So if you're thinking it's going to be like some Linkin Park type stuff going from Chester Bennington to like Emily Armstrong, it doesn't have that particular type pitch, but it's good type fair. Zach Good does a good job on here. It's a pretty balanced album, just to be able to say that. I did not know what to think of this particular type fair. I actually think I like this particular Mistletoes album a little bit better than the Smash Mouth the Gift to Rock album from 2005, which is pretty good within the pitch. Now, the thing about that is I feel like the vanilla kind of snap and the little bit more composition of those songs, like the thing, like with two Smash Mouth Christmas albums now, I realize that Smash Mouth around the Christmas season is just not really as buttery and as smooth and as kind of like frosty. It just is kind of more California-esque. It's not to say California-esque in terms of that particular pitch, but it reminds me, like the bustle about this particular album reminds me of like Getting Christmas in like a more Pacific Coast type atmosphere where it would be more kind of ska type music, a place where you'd have like the same sort of fashion as like No Doubt and Sublime and some of that type fare, where it just seemed like you would get like some of the songs on here that they choose for Christmas songs I did recognize, like Holly Jolly Christmas, Sleigh Ride, and Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, but a lot of these do not have like that winter kind of just typical kind of schmooze factor and just kind of more swinging, just kind of, the typical crooning. Like I feel like a lot of these songs, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, Holly Jolly Christmas, these are more crooning type songs, and Smash Mouth puts more of like a kind of punkish, kind of ska type edge about them, which was the same thing that they did on Gift to Rock from 2005. It was just kind of the concept that the delicateness and the overall aspect, it just has a little bit more abrasive type tone within it, and it just is kind of the concept that you look after it, that it just feels as if like if you're used to a little bit more Christmas etiquette, it doesn't have that as much full bound. It just kind of has like a more kind of just has like a little bit more outrageous type aspect about it, kind of like whoa type thing, just within the pitch behind that. Now it's not to say it's real surfer lingo within that tone, but just the concept, it just doesn't have like when you think of like the original Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, when you think of like the original Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, that one's a little bit more just like a schmooze type song, just a little bit smoother, something within the pitch, and just having like the kind of not necessarily tuxedo type music, but just more of like crooning. I mean, it just kind of has that crooning type vibe. Songs like Jingle Bell Rock, even though that's not on here, Jingle Bell Rock, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, Holly Jolly Christmas, Sleigh Ride, some of those type ones, Favorite Things, some of those type pitches, just from the tone, you kind of get the aspect that it just kind of has that. But Smash Mouth doesn't really attempt to kind of have like the smooth type vibes. It kind of just brings their typical fare, which is summer energy, just within the pitch, as far as saying, just in the aspect of basically just getting Christmas and like the summertime, almost like if you do like Christmas in July, this would be more of that type fare more so than that. I think that's just kind of the tone, as the way Smash Mouth kind of treated both these Christmas albums, is just Christmas in July more so than the actual kind of this, less kind of bustled and just less kind of outrageous kind of demeanor about it, just in the pitch. But some of these songs do work. I mean, for the tone behind it, you do get like they do nail like the bustle of like the holiday energy pretty well, just within the pitch behind it. Like if you need like the makeshift type songs, they do have some good ones, and there are 5 original songs on here. I do I do recommend 4 out of 5 of these original songs in here. And the 5th song I would recommend if it would have had like a certain thing about it. But this kind of within the pitch, they do have some good songwriting on here. They have like the holiday bustle down pretty well. They have like the makeshift Drew down pretty well, and they have like the strip mall and kind of just holiday, just out and about where you're gonna hear these songs in like November, December, early January, some of those type fairs as far as those pitches can happen. So it is very much a holiday album. It's just kind of within the push that just a little bit more amongst social kind of just like chaos, just kind of the concept. It doesn't care as much about like the frostiness or the overall this kind of more afterthought type moments within the pitch. But just to say, I'm not really sure if there's a single off this product. I mean, this is going to get a higher score, like I was saying, more than likely. I don't remember what I gave The Gift of Rock back in December, but I would have to say I think I gave it like a 6.75 or a 7, something like that. But this is actually going to get a higher score than that. I mean, for the most part, 10 songs in here, a little bit shorter than The Gift of Rock, but just within the pitch behind it has more original songs, which is pretty dope. It's just the songs that some of the ones that they chose for the Christmas songs just don't really fit as much full-bound kind of Christmas aspects about it. It's just kind of the taste behind it. But yeah, I would have to say kind of within the pitch. So out of 10 songs on here, I wound up recommending 7, so that's some good type fare. Just to be able to say, since there's no single, I'll just go ahead and talk about the fact of how I score this album. So basically 7 out of 10, I would say, well, obviously you'd think that would get a 7 out of 10, but it's going to get like a 7.5 or 7.75. I'll go ahead and give this album like a 7.75, because there are a lot of connecting songs on here just within pitch behind it. I mean, I feel like the quality of this product is pretty here, and just the offhandedness for what they had to work with, just the aspect of just doing some of this Christmas type fare and just putting like a new spin on something that's just not traditional, just within a sense. Because I will say about Smash Mouth in the Christmas time is it is original, is because there's not typical kind of surfer dude. I mean, maybe Beach Boys did like a Christmas album, but just in terms like typical kind of surfer dude, kind of ska, like No Doubt, Sublime type music, some of those type folks in particular, I can't think of as many full bound, but just some of that type pitch and just getting more beachside kind of Christmas music, just Pacific wise, it's a good concept kind of have for some of that type fare. It's not just like this is only West Coast type music, but just within the pitch, it just it's a little bit more extreme sports type fashion is what I mean by that. Just the more concept, but just more being more summer fried places where you're just more typical amongst like things like Zoo York and some of those type pitches I'd have to say. But yeah, the songs on here, basically, like I said, I recommend all 4 out of 5 of the original songs. Basically, the first 5 songs you hear are the original Smash Mouth songs. So the only song out of those, and I'll just go ahead and talk about the 3 songs I don't recommend on here first. So the 3 songs I don't recommend would just be Christmas Wrapping, A Holly Jolly Christmas, and Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. So I wanted to recommend Christmas Wrapping. This has a guest vocalist on here named Susanna Haas. Pretty good chick on here that does a good job with it. Just kind of the concept that she just is the only vocalist on the song. I kind of feel like this would have been a pretty good duet. There are some chicas on this particular album that do some good fare to kind of have that extra romantic type factor, which works to like a certain tinge about it. But this is really, Christmas Wrapping is really only from the female perspective, which is the only natch about that particular song. It would have been nice to have had Zach Good on that particular song to see how that contribution could have went, even if it would have been Susanna Hoffs with the first 2 verses and Zach Good could have been on the 3rd verse or something like that. But I think he's like minorly on the chorus, just very minorly, partially on Christmas Wrapping, but it's not hardly noticeable. I think Zach Good definitely should have dropped the verse, especially considering the fact that he was the new vocalist on here. I think probably should have distributed him a little bit better, have been able to nail that song just within the pitch. If he had been on like at least 1 verse, probably would have nailed that song better. It was just within the pitch. Not that she does a bad job, and I like the instrumentation in that particular song, and just needed the extra flavor like the original band on there. But that's why I didn't recommend Christmas Wrapping. I feel like Holly Jolly Christmas and Rock Around the Christmas Tree, basically talking about these. These were like the type of ones I was talking about where they just don't really fit the Christmas season type fold. Both of these type songs just have a little bit more smooth factor about them that Smash Mouth just didn't nail within the pitch behind. I mean, they're good song choices, but it's just the aspect of how to particularly do them. It didn't really have the aspect of kind of bringing like a summer kind of more traditional, just kind of festive kind of just party animal type craze about them. They just feel more like mingle type songs more so than bonanza type songs just within the pitch behind it. But that just wasn't nailed about those. That's the concept. So yeah, this album gets a 7.75 out of 10. Talk about some of the songs I recommend on here. So basically, Mistletoes is a nice one. This is like a typical kind of Xmas season again, kind of embraced to kind of get within that tone. And that's the fashion behind it, saying it's Xmas season again, not so much just Xmas season, but got another Christmas to go through some of those type of pitches. Just kind of not so much full-blown sarcastic, but maybe like mildly sardonic just in the pitch. Just the same typical type fashion that Steve Harwell would do with some of that type fare. Just another Xmas, some of those type fares. Just workaday smash mouth work shift kind of get within that pitch. It had to say, and just the vanilla outing to kind of have within that fare. It's a good type song. It's just within the pitch. This probably feels like the closest thing to a single off this product. It's kind of one that you'd listen to starting about like, you know, November 15th, November 15th, mid-November, some of that type fare is Christmas season starting to fire up. Just in the pitch behind it, just typical bustle like the holiday season type fare. It's not as pushy, not as much of like the chaos amongst it, but it's just kind of typical holiday music as far as that particular pitch kind of goes along with the good type fare. Single for Christmas is another good song on here. This is like a brushy kind of cold weather push to kind of get this a makeshift kind of caught in the holiday malaise type appeal to kind of have about this one. This is more like the standard fashion. This one's a little bit more just kind of that haze of just like the composition behind it just kind of deals with. I mean, it's like some typical Traverse here. This would probably be like some good Tuesday type music just to be able to say about it. It's the aspect as far as saying like both these songs, Mistletoe, Single for Christmas, are just kind of traditional Traverse type music, but this one's just a little bit calmer, just within the pitch behind it. Just kind of a Single for Christmas is kind of amongst like the work shift, just that holiday dredge, just like, you know, SMH type fare. Maybe not so much SMH in terms of like hating it, but just the concept of just like sigh, you know, pitches like that, just the standard malaise and just kind of stress of like that particular season. It's just kind of typical dredge, I'd have to say. So this nails it for what it is. But this is not a negative album. I mean, they nail it within the energy behind it, but it just kind of has that particular fare or dislike the aspect as far as saying that it is like a lot of malaise about this particular product. I mean, The Gift of Rock from 2005 kind of had that aspect as well. I mean, it had some degree, it had maybe The Gift of Rock from 2005 had a little bit more energy about it, but it was the same sort of dredge within the pitch. So Merry Christmas is the third original song on here, and I like this particular connotation as far as being like some slang and lingo for Christmas. Good type concept to say Merry Chris instead of Merry Christmas. Just say, hey, Merry Chris. You know, it's good concept for that particular fare. Just like amongst the holiday chaos kind of bustle, kind of get about this song. Just a typical kind of Tuesday, Wednesday traffic to kind of have within that pitch. Pretty good shopping mall tune kind of have within that fare. And this is one of those ones where you're just, you know, when you see in like the holiday movies where they have all the shopping pandemonium, some of those type pitches, this is just some of that type fare of like it's December 16th, December 20th, you got to get your last minute shopping in. Some of those type pushes, so just that particular chaos that kind of goes along with it, just more a little bit more bustle about it within the pitch behind. But I do like the pacing of this particular one. Typical type fare, just like Smash Mouth from 2005, The Gift of Rock, some of those type pitches. There were some songs on that album similar to this one. Xmas Time is the fourth single. This might be one of my more favorite songs on here in terms of the pitch behind it. Just like some grand kind of mall rap music, I'd have to say. Just a brushy kind of chilly shopping day. I'd feel like in a new wave kind of blear about it, just in the pitch behind it. This one reminds me of Gwen Stefani's Cool from her Love Angel music. This one reminds me of Gwen Stefani's Cool from her Love Angel music Baby album from 2004. Pretty good pitch about it. It's really that new wave kind of blear, something that feels like what the Police would do, or just like one of those just kind of electronic kind of one of those electronic kind of smoother type songs like an 80s new wave kind of sense I'd have to say about it in particular. It's just kind of the pitch behind it. Definite type appeal to kind of get within that tone about it. There definitely probably need to be another song like this. I realize within the fashion that probably they didn't want too many copycat type songs, but this is like a more kind of slowed down type song that just delivers upon the aspect of not being quite as full blown, not being as much full bound kind of outrageous. I'd have to say this is a good type pitch for that, good type fare. White Christmas is a nice one. Now these are some ones on here that after the four songs I described, there's some cover songs on here. So White Christmas feels like a No Doubt kind of beachside sunshine to kind of get in like the holiday season. I'd have to say just some nice shopping bustle. I'd have to say about this one. It's a pretty good hit to kind of have here. You know, White Christmas just feels like some beachside kind of Christmas music as far as those fairs kind of having just a little bit more in warmer weather. Maybe you have a Christmas where it's going to be like 70 degrees or 65 degrees, something within that relative type push just within it. It's nice bustle kind of get within that tone. Just typical, maybe not as paced as Merry Chris or like Sleigh Ride, some of those type of ones I'd have to say within the pitch behind it, but still some good type fare for it. It's kind of amongst the Christmas season, like a more kind of just warmer weather type fashion, I'd have to say. And then Sleigh Ride is a nice one. This is a good type one on here. It's like a good greaser-like kind of holiday bump to kind of get here. Just a typical kind of day shift commute I'd had to feel like about this one. Just good kind of typical day shift commute music to kind of get within that pitch. Just a vintage kind of smash mouth spice kind of have after this particular one. So this is a good type aspect. This is a better choice for like the aspect of how it delivers. I feel like Sleigh Ride is just a good composition. This feels like that typical kind of commute, just within the pitch behind it. Is some of that type fare. Has a little bit more energy about it. This is a little bit more spice about it compared to some of the original songs off here as far as those pitch can happen. I just look within the tone that it's that tradition, this typical kind of December, November type fare to kind of get within that aspect as far as just like Smash Mouth, just with Christmas in mind as far as those pitch can happen. Just good type tone for that. Just good choice, just solid vanilla type hit just within the pitch behind as far as those fares can happen. Just nice amount of energy and just works with it. It's a good example of a cover song that was nailed. And then Last Christmas is a good one on here. Now this is a duet, and this is probably the way that Christmas rapping should have been, but I look after a good type fare. It's like a woozy, kind of frosty, romantic spice of a beat. The song's like some woozy, frosty, kind of romantic spice to kind of get here. Just some beachside kind of ska vibe about this particular one. Is what I'd say. Just nice up close, kind of hands full, kind of full speed type music to kind of get within that tone. Just kind of the concept of like that holiday bustle. Just kind of old flames as far as those pitch kind of happen. Just the aspect of this dealing with sort of fair, just in romantic type sense, just the pitch behind it. Just good concept for having some of that. Just good concept for having some smooth type fashion, just in like a more kind of tugging type senses to the pitch behind it. So some good type fare as far as those pitch can happen with it. It's a real nice aspect kind of get within that fare. Now this is a new trace of something. This was not something that kind of happened on the previous Smash Mouth Christmas album, The Gift of Rock. This would have been a good nice fare to have kind of gotten within that fashion. Just the aspect of seeing it from like the female perspective, which is something that's just an extra kind of aspect about this particular album that works pretty well within the pitch. Would have been some good type fare to have seen how that would have had the more fashion about it back in 2005, just within the pitch behind it, or even like a song that would have been on the 2012 rendition of The Gift of Rock as well, just from the pitch. But some good type fare kind of get this particular aspect. I feel like this particular song just has a good extra spice about it that just kind of adds some new flavor, extra variation, because typically Smash Mouth did not do too many guests on their albums as far as those pitch can happen. For the most part, I think they only did a guest verse with one rapper that was on like the 2012 album, but apart from that, they've never really had many other guest vocalists. So it's just within the pitch. I feel like definitely, I think, like I was saying, how many times the Susanna Hoff song definitely needed like another vocalist on there to have that particularly hit even heavier. And I just say the pitch behind it, that Last Christmas hit pretty effectively, I had to say. So that's the pitch about this album. So 7.75. The social score, that's trickier. I'd had to say probably within the pitch behind it, I'd probably give the social score like a 7.75 as well, just within the fare behind it. It has the songs on here. There's definitely some good Mallrat type music, holiday brush pitches like that, just the bustle of it, the pandemonium, some pitches like that. Doesn't really have as much restaurant music on here, I'd have to say. That's one particular concept. It just feels less oriented towards more food and dining pitches like that. It's more amongst the concept of just shopping, car commerce, and just like even the concept of very much hangout type fare, I'd say apart from songs like Christmas Wrapping and Last Christmas, there's not really a ton of social commotion, more at the house where the Christmas trees and the presents and those sorts of things and the hors d'oeuvres and the food and the socialization, the mingling is going to kind of happen. This is really not that much of like a hangout type project, just full bound, which is another type of thing. It's more kind of out in the wind and kind of more amongst like the day shift as far as this pitch can happen. So it doesn't have, that's another thing about this particular project, so it doesn't have as much kind of retire as far as those pitch can happen. So it's just an aspect that's kind of more just amongst like the standard push where you'd be going. But it's not really so much date music. You're not going to restaurants. You're not really. It's kind of the concept of just like some commerce, just the push behind it, like one or two hangout songs, and then mostly just like the day shift kind of commerce just within the pitch behind it. So it's just kind of within the shopping music, day shift commerce, and just like one or two hangout songs just within the pitch behind it. So it's just within the fare, but it's just kind of the snap behind it. So maybe actually the social score would get like a 7.25 out of 10. I'm going to go ahead and say that the social score gets a 7.25. I'm going to go ahead and say that the social score gets like a 7.25 out of 10 because this is good music here, I'd say, within the push behind it. It's just kind of the concept that it just doesn't have the social bite, it's full bound. It's just kind of within the aspect of some good type music kind of have within the aspect of just nailing what needs to happen, but it's just the aspect of the social festivities and the overall highlights to have like the usual kind of smash mouth ferociousness of something that's like standouts on here. It's not as full bound. It just kind of feels somewhat of white noise just within the pitch, but it does have the aspect of having some good moments, but it just doesn't have that usual kind of social commotion of songs like Then the Morning Comes and I'm a Believer, Pacific Coast Party, Walking on the Sun, some of those type pitches, even like the typical kind of unanimous appeal of like All Star, some of those type pitches. So it's just kind of within tone, but it works for what it is. Zach Good does a pretty good job of revitalizing the band within the pitch behind it, so some good type fair. So 7.25 social. In terms of future, like this is Smash Mouth's most recent album. This is the last one to get to, so I reviewed every Smash Mouth album now, with the exception of Fushu Mang Acoustic, which I don't know about that particular one. There might be some stuff on there that might change it. That's the true last product that was done with Steve Harwell as far as those pitches going to happen. Not sure is full bound about that, but just to say, other than that, I've reviewed every Smash Mouth album, so definitely recommend to check out the Smash Mouth playlist and just see a lot of these on here. It's got some pretty effectual type stuff, and like I've been saying, this band had more hits about them than just beyond their early 2000s, late 90s heyday, I'd say. So definitely see the playlist and you'll see for yourself.